All right, here we go. So Gotham has ended. And I stopped doing episode by episode reviews of season 5 as it was airing, partly just because I was having trouble fitting it in my schedule. But also, I started finding I wasn't enjoying season 5 very much. Ultimately, I don't like season 5. And that really frustrates me. Because I love Gotham. Gotham has been one of my favorite shows on television for the last few years. I love the insanity of it. I love how campy it is while at the same time being dark. It's a wonderful blend of elements and I love it. But this season... Okay. So... It wasn't a complete and utter faceplant. And this is probably one of the few times. Because people will accuse me of this, and I actually don't think I do it very often because... Well, I'll explain why in a second. So, it's not uncommon for me when I complain about movies, TV shows, what have you... that people accuse me of it just not being what I want it to be. And that like, well, you must have had a specific idea in your mind. And you're just mad that it wasn't that. Which I don't think happens to me very often at all. Because the thing is, if you follow me for long enough, you would know that like in the live streams or whatnot, people are like, oh, what do you think they should do with this story or this property? And my answer is always like, I don't know. Like, I don't come up in my mind with what I think these things should do. That's just not really something I do. My brain doesn't work that way. This is about the one time I will kind of cop to that being a factor, though, that the way they chose to end this is not what I wanted. And I had a more specific idea of what I wanted. But I'm still not going to give the show a pass for that because I feel like what I wanted was really reasonable and would have made a heck of a lot more sense than what they did. So, I'll get into that a bit more as we go along. Okay, look, overall, it's not like the last season of Dexter. All right? It by no means ruins the show. It doesn't make it so like, I can't even watch the good seasons anymore. That's how bad this is. It's nothing like that. I just found this to be a big disappointment. And I feel like if I were to try and pinpoint the problem, I feel like they didn't do enough with the fact that this was the last season. And what I mean by that is they knew going in, because it wasn't long after season 4 aired. It was right when the renewal for Gotham came down. They were told, okay, last season, short season. And I feel like what they did was rather than go, oh, okay, if this is the last season, we gotta really, just whatever we were planning long term, like set that aside, let's really blow this out. I feel like what they did instead was take whatever had been their plan for a full season of Gotham, presuming that it wasn't going to be the last, condense that down to 12 episodes, or really 11 episodes, add a coda at the end, but not restructure it in a way so that it feels like a proper payoff for stuff. And that's my big issue with season 5. I'll have more specific issues. I'll mention them as I go along, I'm sure. But the big core one for me is, given that the setup at the end of season 4, when they set up for No Man's Land, what makes No Man's Land great as a story and why I was so excited to see it in Gotham was that the whole idea of No Man's Land is the elements that are already in Gotham just at each other's throats. No holds barred. They have no reason to hold back anymore, and it's just dirty fighting, between all these factions. But they're the factions of the people who are already there. So that so much of the plot, especially in the second half of the season, hinges on an outside force and new villains who I don't like, but I'll come back to them. That is really infuriating for me. Because this show had everything it needed to go nuts in its last season. Everything was already in place. All the characters that they already had, they didn't need a new outside force coming in. Heck, there were villains that are still around that we didn't even see. Like, early on, there's a reference that, like, Mr. Freeze and Firefly are at war with each other, and we never see them. I would much rather have seen that than this stupid friggin' Bane and the... Okay, I said I'm gonna deal with that later, and I will deal with that later. But, like... And Mr. Freeze and Firefly aren't even, like, particular favorites of mine, but it's like, you had everything. You had all the material. You had more than enough material to fill 12 seasons and pay off and just dwell in and give a celebration of the characters we already had and the characters that we already loved as fans, and you didn't. And I don't know why not. And I think in some ways the whole thing that was done with Jeremiah, having him replace Jerome, feels, now in hindsight, feels like that was a warning sign for how season 5 wasn't going to quite pull together. Because in and of himself, there's really not that much wrong with Jeremiah. He's a perfectly valid interpretation of the Joker. But you don't need him. We had Jerome. There's nothing really that I feel was substantively gained by taking Jerome off the board, giving us Jeremiah, who was for a while a very different character, but then by the end, and especially in the little coda thing, was basically just acting like Jerome again. Why didn't you just let us keep Jerome? Like, what? Why? Why couldn't you keep using the thing that we were already invested in? Okay. So, what's good? Well, most of the characters that I love are still good. Although some of them have stupid things happen to them. Again, I'll mention it as I go. Gordon's good. He's solid. Bullock's good. Victor Zsasz. He's not in this season much. But, oh, did I love it when he was. Oh, it made me so happy. Just his casualness with all of this stuff when he's about to get his head chopped off, or he's just taking pot shots at Jim Gordon. Just, hey guys, how you doing? I love him so much. He was great. Penguin was good. Penguin's always good. Seeing Penguin and Ed together again, that was great. Even though it was rushed, I kind of liked the thing they did to have the ventriloquist. I did kind of like that. Again, it was rushed. It felt like in their original plan for season 5, when they thought they might have had a full season, that maybe he was supposed to be a 2 or 3 episode story, and they crammed him into one. But I still kind of liked him. I mean, I like the ventriloquist anyway. I think he's one of the more underrated Batman villains, to be completely honest. But I liked him. He was solid. Did I mention Barbara already? Barbara was good. I have mixed feelings. Okay, I should have said at the front end, spoilers. Yes, just spoilers. I've kind of just gone bits and pieces up to now, but I'm getting into flat out spoilers at this point. So, not a huge fan of season 5. Other people might have liked it more. I'm jealous of them that they liked it. I wished I could have. But, so Barbara, I have mixed feelings about her basically seeming to go straight and go normal, for lack of a better word, with the finale. because it has the 10-year flash forward. I have mixed feelings about that because on the one hand, like, I like Barbara being Barbara, and it feels in some ways like a kneecapping of the character. But then again, on the other hand, I can speak from personal experience and say that in some ways, having a kid mellows you out. So I don't know. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. We'll go with that. Bruce was good. Actually, that actor really grew on me by the time he was done. Lee was pretty good. I liked Lee last season best, though. And trying to think, God, who else? I mean, Lucius Fox was good. Alfred was good. We got Hugo Strange back briefly, but that was always nice. Selina. Selina was fine, but the thing I didn't like from earlier in the season proved to be completely flippin' pointless. So they had this whole thing where Selina couldn't walk, and Bruce finds the less interesting version of Ivy and gets like this natural plant thing to help Selina and is warned like it's going to change who she is. And he gives it to her and now she can walk again. And like they did like a weird tease like she had freaky cat eyes. And like this implication that it was going to make her go crazy or go like super dark or something. But she just kind of doesn't. And like I don't get what the point of any of that was, because where Selina is by the end of the show, both within the arc of the primary part of the season and in the 10-year flash forward, is all places I could believe her just ending up based off how the character was. She doesn't end up at such an extreme that it makes any sense to have a narrative like, oh, and she was pushed into a more extreme version by this seed or whatever the hell it was. Like, well, no! This is totally in line with who she was and the trajectory of where she was going as a character. Why did you insert this, darkness seed when she doesn't even go that friggin' dark? Not compared to how she was already going. Like her hunt, if the idea was like her hunting down Jeremiah for revenge, like I believe she would have done that anyways. Like what the hell? What was the point? Echo was fine as sort of the proto Harley Quinn. I mean, I kind of wish that they could have found a way to bring Lori Petty back from what is probably still my favorite episode of the entire show. This ball of mud and meanness from season 2. Because I like her a little bit better as kind of a Harley Quinn-esque, but Echo was fine. But okay. I've kind of been dancing around it a little bit, but the thing that really just infuriated me for this season. So, the main villain thing, they bring in Eduardo, who ends up being Bane, which, again, we didn't need. We have more than enough villains in Gotham. We did not need Bane. But even if they were going to do that, even if they were going to have some version of Bane, why did they lift so much from The Dark Knight Rises, which isn't even that well regarded at this point? Like, why did you lift the style of voice, the look for the mask of Bane, the fact that he is serving another villain, and that villain turns out to be Ra's al Ghul's secret daughter that nobody knew about. Oh, but it's totally different from The Dark Knight Rises, because it's Nyssa al Ghul, the half-sister to Talia that nobody friggin' remembers. Like, what? Why? What? The one thing that Gotham, through all its ups and downs, has been derivative. And I know that sounds weird because it's an adaptation of an existing thing, so it's like it's pulling all this stuff. Yeah, but it was always doing its own thing with it. Gotham never felt like it was doing some previous version of Batman. That was part of what I loved about it, and I also know it's part of why a lot of Batman fans bailed on it almost immediately, because it didn't line up with any version of Gotham and Batman and these characters that they knew. But once I got my head wrapped around that, I loved that. But I'm sitting here watching this going, I saw The Dark Knight Rises, I didn't really like The Dark Knight Rises, why am I seeing it again? Why? I am genuinely actually way more frustrated about this than I even thought I was going to be when I sat down to start recording this. I'm just so infuriated. You had a perfect setup to just have this insane cast go at each other's throats in utter chaos for 12 episodes, and I would have loved it. You had that go on for like maybe 3 or 4 episodes at the front end. And then decide to bring in the military, and Bane, and Nyssa Al Ghul, who is a character I cannot possibly care about, because we never met her before. She's bland as hell. Like, anything with a character we already knew. Heck, bring people back from the dead. You've done it plenty of times. Like, bring Sophia Falcone back. I would have bought that way better than Nyssa Al Ghul. Who was sitting here going, oh, I sure hope they rip off The Dark Knight Rises and have Ra's al Ghul's kid come in. I'll be disappointed if that... Who are these fans that said that? I don't know who they are. They aren't me. I'm really irritated. I'm a little bit irritated with myself for getting this upset. I don't want to be this upset. Because again, this is the time that I will concede I had a pretty clear idea in my head. Not like specific story beats, but I had a general projection of what I thought the season was going to be. What I thought they set up. Which was why I let myself get excited for that idea, because I'm like, well, this is obviously what they've set up. So I'll sit down and watch this. But not only was it not that, what it is, I also don't think it's very good even on its own terms. There are bits, there are moments, even some of the stuff I complained about, like I complained about Jeremiah. Jeremiah is fine. Jeremiah works. I still like Jerome better. Given that I like Jerome better, I don't see why we had to do this and replace him. But Jeremiah is fine. Most of the returning cast is fine, even though some stupid things were done with some of the characters at some points. But the show just... It had such a perfect setup to close out. Why they did the story that they did, I will never know. And as for the finale, I call it a finale. I think of it more as a coda, which is kind of an ending note, a little bit of the flash forward, which was fine. It was kind of nice. It was kind of cool to see some of the characters in the more sort of traditional comic booky costumes, like with the Penguin, like with Jeremiah being the Joker, even though they still can't say it. Whatever. Seeing Jim with the mustache that he then shaves off, like, I tried a thing, it didn't work. Like, no, you're right, it didn't. And I kind of oddly like the weird 3 people raising a kid thing between Barbara Lee and Jim. So, like, there are things that are good, there are things that work, but for a show that I love as much as I loved Gotham for, I would say, seasons 2, 3, and most of 4, I loved this show. I don't love this last season. I'm not even sure I like it. And the things that I don't like about it infuriate me. That's Gotham. Season 5. We'll get into better moods, though, because now that it's over, I'm going to have Liz back on, and we're going to do a top 10 favorite characters from Gotham, like we did for Buffy. So, you have that to look forward to. But, Gotham, it's over! What did you think about it? Did you like it better than I did? I imagine that can't be too hard. Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about a bunch of stuff to do, because there's buttons, and links, and my book, and all sorts of stuff. It's all down below. Click on it. It'll take you places. But you also don't have to, if you don't want to, because at the end of the day, you're the council. I just run the meetings. So until next time, this council is adjourned.